Welcome to the EPG Pathshala program. Myself, Dr. Shubhabrata Dotto, Professor and Head, Department of Social Work, Assam Central University, situated in Silchar. Now we will discuss the module Rural Development as Conceptual Understandings, and it is under the course Rural Development. Before going to the concept of rural development, let's start with the concept of development. What actually we understand by the term development? Development is a subjective and value-loaded concept, and hence there cannot be a consensus to its meaning. The term is used differently in diverse contexts. It is basically means unfolding or revealing or opening up something which is latent. For example, if it is a human being, it will say open up or the explode what? The potentialities of an individual. When an individual has certain potentialities, that potentialities, when it is opening up or getting the scope to explore, that would be treated as development. Whereas other places, unfolding or opening up means find out certain scope for the expansion. If one institutions are there, find out scope where the institution can maybe extended. Maybe there are programs, maybe there are infrastructural facilities, maybe other areas also. Sometimes development required the physical growth. If it is in a road to be widened, that's a physical growth. Certain facilities are not there, facilities to be introduced. For example, electrifications, for example, water supplies, for example, other sanitation programs. That means always there is a change, and change towards a desired direction. That means it is acceptable in nature. If we will prepare a dam and the dam is creating problem with the displacement of the many and sufferings of many people, then it is not treated as a desired direction. So it will not be considered as a development. But when this dam is going to provide water reservoirs for farming, water reservoirs for drinking water, water reservoirs for other users, will be treated as development. So that is why development implies change in a desired directions. Now let us come to the concept of rural development. Rural development assumed as global attention, especially among the developing nations in last few decades. It has great significance for a country like India, where majorities of its population, around close to 70%, are living in the rural areas. At the present strategy of rural development in India mainly focuses on poverty alleviation, better livelihood opportunities, provision of basic amenities, infrastructural facilities through innovative programs, wages and self-employment. Actually, Indian rural areas, if we just see, it is high level of poverty is there, incidence of illiteracy, ill health, infrastructural problems are there, problems of communications, and many other problems exist. Why this is the problem? Then you have to look at what are the areas to be looked into that. First location is the infrastructural development, so that communication can be made, requirement can be provided. And with this infrastructure, look how the poverty can be taken into consideration for a specific program to alleviate it, and other health and educational programs. So if we just let's see the rural, what is the concept of a rural? As per Indian census, there is a definition of urban. The urban definition is that in a place where per square kilometer 5,000 population are living. Number one. Number two, 2/3 male population are engaged in non-agricultural pursuits. And third, the place should not be as educational institutions, army cantonment, railway cantonment, or port or any other notified area. Besides those, what are the other places are left over here will be treated as rural India or the villages. There is no specific definition for the village as per census, but definition of the urban. Beyond this definition, whatever the jurisdiction or the areas are left are treated as villages or the rural areas. So, and sociologically, if we just see a very slow and simple technology oriented life, that means in an area where people are engaged in primary industry in the sense that they produce things directly for the first time in cooperation with the nature. Whatever, maybe certain bamboo uses basket you are using, or any other products, that is raw materials are available in the villages, and with simple technology or subtle innovative idea they prepare the productions that they produce. And rural areas are specifically an area or the place which is away from the influence of large cities or towns. Such areas are distinct from more intensively settled urban and suburban areas, and also from unsettled leads such as outbreak or wilderness. That means in an area is a very natural oriented place where nature has a place to grow. People and nature have an close interactions, which is absence here into the cities and towns. And on the other hand, people are known to each other, close to each other, and have certain common community feelings also. Such we miss in our city or in urban areas. People live in village on farms and in other isolated houses. Rural areas can have agricultural character, though many rural areas are characterized by economy based on logging, mining, oil and glass exploration and tourism. In India, there are many tribal villages are there where specifically rural tourism have been introduced, so that rural economy are depending on the tourism. Some of the areas where agriculture has a vast production, and that is the sustainable economy they are getting from there. So this is how the nature or the characteristics of our rural areas. Now we are entering into the defining concept towards the rural development. There are a number of definitions are there. All are in combination is making to a concept is a process which aims at improving the well-being of self-realization of people living outside the urbanized area through collective process. That means well-being of people and self-realization of people, and that is not influenced by the urbanized area. And United Nations have also tried to define the concept of rural development. How it has defined? Rural development is a process of change by which the efforts of the people themselves are united, those of government authorities to improve their economic, social, cultural condition of communities into the life of the nation, and to enable them to contribute fully to national program. That means overall development to be initiated, whether it is economic, whether it is social, whether it is cultural, and they should be enabled to contribute to the nation. How they will enable to contribute to the nation? Maybe village economy will contribute to the GDP, village culture will contribute for the better national development, that's way. And rural development is a process of bringing change among rural community from traditional way of living to a progressive way of living. It is also expressed as a movement for progress. Traditional life is there, whatever it is, but that should have a progressive in nature. In the traditional life, there may be people are illiterate. In the progressive nature, literacy program or the education to be introduced. People were having their birth at home. The birth to be institutionalized, whether it will be hospital settings or in the healthcare settings. It should be institutionalized birth. So this way, progressive way of life to be introduced. The term rural development connotes overall development in rural areas with a view to improve the quality of life of rural people. In this sense, it is comprehensive and multidimensional concept. That means when you are looking towards the overall development, automatically the concept have a different dimensions and encompasses the development of agriculture and allied activities, village and cottage industries and crafts, socio-economic infrastructure, community services and facilities, and above all, human resources in rural areas. We have always to see that every program, human resources have been capitalized and provided scope for the betterment and improvement. That is should be the always one of the center objective for the program. Now from different dimensions, if we just see, we can see it from three dimensions: as a phenomenon, as a strategy, as a discipline. As a phenomenon, rural development is the end result of interaction between various physical, technological, economic, socio-cultural and institutional factors. When one overall development program we are going to introduce, some physical infrastructural development should be there. Maybe roads, maybe water resources, maybe institutions programs. Technology to be introduced so that they can make better productions. And automatically, with the combination of physical and technological development, economy will progress. And with the economy, the socio and cultural conditions to be also sustained and improved and to be institutionalized. Not only scattered, it should be institutionalized in nature. That is how phenomenon way it has been defined. As a strategy how it can be it is there. It is designed to improve the economic and social well-being of a specific group of people, that is the rural poor. When strategically we are going to look into the development, we have to find out who are the most oppressed and deprived section, that is the poor. So they should be treated as the priority list and accordingly program to be designed for them. Maybe program like PDS, public distribution system, through which they will get chief rated subsidized food so that there should not be any hungerness into their life. Now as a discipline, it is multidisciplinary in nature, representing an intersection of agricultural, social, behavioral, engineering and management sciences. That means when we are going to improve the agriculture, we require agricultural science. We require the infrastructural development, we require proper engineering. We are providing different services, educational and others, we require educationalized. So different, as a discipline, it has also dimension from different perspectives. Now, in a nutshell, the process of rural development must represent the entire gamut of change by which social system moves away from state of life perceived as unsatisfactory towards materially and spiritually better condition of life. That means somewhere in the life treated as unsatisfactory, maybe due to the absence of infrastructure, due to the absence of proper institutions, due to the absence of certain basic needs and requirements. So look towards that and just see the material. Definitely materialistic development is required, otherwise you cannot go for the infrastructural development. Materialistic development and spirituality, that means when the development are taking place, that should be actualized by the people and will be capable to use, otherwise there will be a term called cultural lag. That means there is a development by the infrastructure or the technological and social development, there is a gap. People are unable to use certain development, then it is not meaningful. So that is why it is saying that is materially and spiritually it should be in a cohesion will be there and better for the better condition of life. And the process of rural development may be compared with a train. In each coach pushes one to the ahead. In a train we have seen the number of bogies are there or the coaches, one pushing to other, but there is an engine required to drag the entire train to go ahead. Who are the engine? Here the engine is the rural development, which have power for materialistic development, which has power for technological development, which has power for the spiritual development. It has power and it has been generated the influence to all his coaches to comes together and to go ahead into that. Now rural development has aims and objectives. Rural development aims at improving the rural people's livelihood in an equitable and sustainable manner, both socially and environmentally, through better access of assets, that is natural, physical, human, technological and social capital, and services, and control over productive capital, maybe financial or political, that enable them to improve their livelihoods on a sustainable and equitable basis. First, it has been said the livelihoods in an equitable and sustainable manner. That means certain introduction have been given that how the agricultural production to be increased, and that should be sustainable in nature. That means if it is required water supply for the irrigation, water supply to be provided in a sustainable nature, then only production can sustain, and accordingly their income can sustain, through which their physical and human development is possible over there. That is why it should be sustainable and equitable in nature. That is the aim for the improvement of the life. And as for the objectives, the basic objectives of rural development programs have been alleviation of poverty. Anyway, we know and already have said the rural areas are poverty driven areas. So first, as a strategy, it was been said the alleviation of poverty should be the target. So automatically the first one is the poverty alleviation, and employment, or the employment through the creation of basic social and economic infrastructure. When we want to employ the people, you have to provide infrastructural facilities, then only it can generate employment. Through infrastructure, it may be training for the unemployed youth, providing employment materials so that certain machines you can provide so they can produce their products through farming, through labors, and to discourage seasonal and permanent migration to urban areas. If there is a migration from rural to urban, automatically urban will have trouble, as well as rural economy will remain in its own place, which will not improve in a progressive manner. That is not desired. So that is why the objective is to that poverty alleviation, employment generation, training, and to prevent but check the migration from the rural to urban. Rural developments have its different elements. First elements is the basic necessities of life. That means provision of basic necessities, that is the food, clothes, shelter, basic literacy, primary health care, security of life and property. Not only the food, clothes, shelter, it has been added more than that. That means literacy, that means basic education, as well as the primary health care. From the institutional birth to up to 6 years, all kind of primary health care facilities to be provided to everyone. And in the primary responsibility of economics, whether they are capitalist, socialist or mixed, what kind of economy it is there, whether it is a developed nation, developing nation or underdeveloped nation, what kind of government it is having there, capitalist, socialist or mixed kind of economy it is in there. Focus or thrust should be to provide basic necessities to every villagers. In this sense, we may claim that economic growth, that means per capita income, is a necessary condition for the improvement of the quality of life of rural people, and that will be termed as rural development. That means if the rural people are able to contribute to the GDP by gross domestic products, then in a real sense the rural development are taking place. Next element is the self-respect. Every person and every nation seeks some sort of self-respect, dignity or honor. That means absentia or denial of self-respect indicates lack of development. When certain development programs are taking place, we must have to be ensured the individual, the community and the village, their self-respect have been restored and they are taken into part into the program, not as considered. They should be a part and contributory into the program, whether planning, whether execution and whether the management. That means stakeholders concept to be restored for the condition to restore the self-respect. Next one is the freedom. In this context, freedom refers to political, ideological freedom, economic freedom and freedom from social servitude or the ignorance. That means an individual will have freedom to political and ideological. What he or she is having ideology, that should have freedom. Economic freedom, that means chosen whether any kind of employment will take or not to be taken. It should be freedom to choose for that. And freedom from social servitude, that means exploitation should be prevented, and if it is ignored, you have to provide knowledge so that the overcome can the ignorance on that. It cannot claim to have achieved the goal of development. Servitude from any form reflects the state of underdevelopment. That means exploitation is a condition of the unemployment. As a rural development, it should overcome from that. And then science and technology. Definitely for the rural development, science and technology has a major role to play. So Ministry of Science and Technology plays a pivotal role in the promotion of science and technology in the country. Appropriate rural technology focuses mainly on those technologies which are simple and within the reach of ordinary people for their own benefit and the benefit of their community, and harness local and regional capacity to meet the local needs without increasing dependence on external factors. I have given an example. I'm sorry. In a tribal area, people basically collect raw materials which can make brooms, which can make different baskets and other things. Collecting the raw materials, they are unable to produce the finished product and they are selling these raw materials. And through this, at the end of the day, their earning comes 80 rupees to 100 rupees, 120 rupees maximum. Now, one machine have been prepared with a very simple technology and with a very simple using process, through which, by using this raw materials which they have collected from their own locality, they are producing the finished good, that is the brooms or some baskets or some finished products with the raw materials. And accordingly, the earnings of the same individual is going up to 500 to 600 rupees. That means 5 to 6 times earnings increase due to the use of this simple technology based machines. That is the importance of that. A large number of governments, public and private, non-government organizations are involved in developing technologies for rural areas. Now, number of programs, studies are being conducted by the different, whether it is a government or individual publics or non-government organizations, for providing simple technology based machines for the promotion of the rural economy. Sometimes this technology is accepted, sometimes it has difficulties, but still progress is going on. Now, at the end, if we want to summarize, the rural development actually has been considered as one of the foremost requirements, and rural areas are basically very simple nature interaction based areas where people live with the nature, with the interactions, and have a very simple way of life and use less technology for their production and things. But as a development concept, target is to that the people should be able to produce their own basic needs, and it should have a holistic and sustainable nature of development. That means there will be certain materialistic as well as the spiritual development, and it should be a progress, that is unsatisfactory state of condition to a desired satisfactory state of condition. And it has basic elements. Elements is that basic necessities of life, self-respect and the freedom. From all kind of thinking, people have freedom, and when the development program will take place, people restore the self-respect, and the basic necessities of life is the foremost requirement that to be provided. And in doing this, simple technology oriented machines to be introduced to them so that their income range can improve and actually they can contribute towards the national economy. With this concept, target is that the village infrastructure development should take place, as well as social and cultural development will also take place in a holistic view. With this, we are ending. For further explanation, you can read the books like Katar Singh, written Rural Development, books written by Chuabrata Datta and Rural Development, Leadership and Decentralization, e-text what will be provided, and other references are in there. Thank you.